There's more to the Jeffrey Epstein story, and it goes to the highest levels of our government and Israel's.
Who exactly was Robert Maxwell?
Like, I put him in the mentor role. I put him in kind of the godfather role where he kind of directed Epstein on what to do.
He was a spy, for sure, and then he had a huge publishing empire.
So Robert Maxwell sued over that intelligence claim, and he did not win.
Yo, what's good? We're back with another one.
It's showtime.
The man nicknamed the Bouncing Czech, who climbed from a wooden shack in Czechoslovakia to the heights of British power. And like all great scandals, it leaves us with one big question. Who exactly was Robert Maxwell? By late 1991, Maxwell was cornered. His companies were collapsing under billions in debt. Banks were circling. A BBC Panorama investigation was digging into his financial irregularities, and his own finance director was demanding answers about the missing pension money. On November 5th, 1991, Maxwell vanished from his yacht, the Lady Ghislaine, off of the Canary Islands. Hours later, his naked body was found floating in the Atlantic. The official verdict? Heart attack, accidental drowning. But right off the bat, few people believed it. One former colleague insisted Maxwell had beat. Ghislaine herself claimed he was pushed. Conspiracy theorists pointed fingers at Mossad, suggesting Maxwell tried to extort Israel and paid the price. Adding fuel to the fire, his body was buried in Jerusalem with what was essentially a state funeral. The Prime Minister at the time attended. Mossad's chiefs were there too. For some, that was proof that he'd been more than just a businessman.
This episode's gonna get us in trouble, isn't it?
Fuck that, bro. People need to know.
There's more to the Jeffrey Epstein story, and it goes to the highest levels of our government and Israel's. Investigators think that missing documents show that Jeffrey Epstein ran a secret honeypot operation against politicians and famous celebrities you probably know. I'm going to get to the honeypot and the individuals involved in a minute, but first, some backstory. Now, Epstein had a relationship with a woman by the name of Ghislaine Maxwell, who's currently serving 20 years in prison for her involvement in trafficking for Jeffrey Epstein. Now, Ghislaine Maxwell's dad was Robert Maxwell, and it's believed that he was an agent of Israeli intelligence called the Mossad. Now, these missing documents were in Jeffrey Epstein's house in 2019 when the FBI raided the house, took pictures of the documents, but mysteriously they disappeared. This evidence could show that Robert Maxwell and Ghislaine Maxwell got Jeffrey Epstein to work for Israeli intelligence. This seems to be supported by Jeffrey Epstein's calendars, which show that between 2013 and 2017, he met with Israeli intelligence 36 times.
Fucking hell, you can't really deny that.
Maxwell taught Epstein everything, bro.
His life has been the stuff of novels. So remarkable was his rise from poverty to millionaire, then his fall, and his ability to bounce back again.
Jan Ludwig Hock was born into a Jewish Orthodox family in then Czechoslovakia in 1923. He managed to flee during the war. However, his parents and much of his immediate family died in the Holocaust. During the war, Maxwell fought for both the Czechoslovak resistance and then the British Army, and became a naturalized British citizen shortly after the end of the war, changing his name to Robert Maxwell. He ran a powerful publishing company, Pergamon Press,
and no one has any doubt that Pergamon is a sound business,
and served as the Labour Member of Parliament for Buckingham in the 1960s. Then in 1984, he bought the Mirror Group newspapers, becoming the media baron rival to Rupert Murdoch.
This quest of yours for a national newspaper, is it because you really are after power?
Well, no, it is not because I'm after power.
That's bullshit, bro. He was obsessed with power.
Yeah, it seems like it.
Robert Maxwell, okay, Jeffrey Epstein's mentor and basically the guy that, you know, he's working for Ghislaine, and Ghislaine's just working for her father's, network and doing what her father did. Her father owned Pergamon Press, so he basically created all the journals in science and basically built science around this whole process called peer review.
Yes.
And really amped up the peer review in the process of it. But what he did in that is he created all these journals in this peer review process, which has to go through these journals. So basically, you've created a conduit now through which you can control what gets published in science and what gets out there and what doesn't. And that's a great trap for the intelligence community, because you need to make sure that disruptive science and technologies get into your hands first and not someone else's, right? So it's no surprise that these kinds of people, the intelligence agents, were onto that sort of thing, and using Jeffrey Epstein and his network. Jeffrey Epstein was super interested in gravity.
Right. Yeah, because he had a lot of those people on his island. Lawrence Krauss, Stephen Hawking.
They didn't go to the island to talk science, bro.
Seems like Epstein took over from where Maxwell left off.
So Maxwell's dad was an Israeli spy.
Yes.
But his daughter
and it
was running logistics for Jeffrey
Epstein, yes.
Who has been named by government officials that he's untouchable because he's in intelligence.
Yes. And Maxwell, he had a very mysterious death, much like Jeffrey Epstein. Now, the cover story on it is that, because it did come out that he'd ripped off all the retirement funds of all these employees. Millions of dollars. He destroyed all these people. A guy obviously didn't have a conscience. And Ghislaine Maxwell supposedly then came to New York to get away from it. And then that's where she met Jeffrey Epstein. Now, according to this Israeli spy that I interviewed, Robert Maxwell put Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein together. And they were together even before he died, before his mysterious death. Some people think it's suicide, some people think it's homicide. It's a very strange death. So somehow Maxwell and Epstein got together. And the story is that Epstein had the money and Maxwell had the connections.
It's true, bro. Robert Maxwell set them up together.
Why would he do that?
Because Israel told him to, bro.
Remember, this is for entertainment purposes only.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about Robert Maxwell. Personally, I think he was like Epstein's mentor. Like, I put him in the mentor role. I put him in kind of the godfather role, where maybe he kind of directed Epstein on what to do and was sort of the mentor to him.
But what is more to that story that most people don't want everyone to know is that he was a Mossad asset. He was an Israeli spy.
And I think the real answer is Jeffrey Epstein was working on behalf of intel services, probably not American. And we have every right to ask, on whose behalf was he working? It's extremely obvious to anyone who watches that this guy had direct connections to a foreign government. Now, no one's allowed to say that that foreign government is Israel, because we have been somehow cowed into thinking that that's naughty. There is nothing wrong with saying that. There is nothing hateful about saying that. There's nothing anti-Semitic about saying. There's nothing even anti-Israel about saying that.
I can say this, though, right? Even Ghislaine Maxwell herself, right? She says that Israel assassinated her dad.
It's true, bro. They got Epstein, too.
She was working for him. Why would they take him out?
Because he got exposed, bro.
Tragedy struck in 1991. Robert Maxwell disappeared from his yacht, the Lady Ghislaine, off the Canary Islands.
At 11 o'clock, a business call from New York was put through to Mr. Maxwell's stateroom. That went unanswered, alerting the captain, who raised the alarm. An air and sea search was launched. Several hours later, Mr. Maxwell's body was found by the pilot of a Spanish sea rescue helicopter, winched aboard and taken to Las Palmas.
His funeral took place in Jerusalem and was attended by both the Israeli president and prime minister. He was then buried on the Mount of Olives. But it emerged that Maxwell had left debts of £400 million, and that led to conspiracy theories about his death. There were reports he was the agent for the Israeli intelligence agency, Mossad, and had threatened to divulge secrets, thus prompting his murder. And it was revealed that Maxwell had illegally taken more than £300 million worth of pension money, leaving thousands of employees fearing the worst for their future.
What a piece of shit. Can't believe they buried him at the Mount of Olives.
They loved him, bro. He gave them shitloads of information, and he lied for them.
It's 1986, and an Israeli named Mordecai Vanunu is in London trying to tell the world about Israel's secret nuclear weapons program.
Vanunu's photographs give a unique first-hand account of what's been going on inside Israel's nuclear reactor.
He's taken photographs inside the top-secret nuclear enrichment facility, and they're set to be published in the Sunday Times. Unfortunately for him, a con man named Oscar Guerrero also has copies of his photos and is looking for a payday.
Oscar Guerrero had surfaced in London again and was trying to sell copies of Vanunu's photographs to the Sunday Mirror.
It was a race to the printer, and the Sunday Mirror, a tabloid competitor to the broadsheet Sunday Times, published Vanunu's photographs first. But instead of writing an expose of Israel's secret nukes, they targeted Vanunu.
On the strength of Guerrero's evidence, the Mirror denounced Vanunu as a fake.
To discredit Vanunu and his photos, they got experts on record saying that they could just have easily been taken inside an egg factory. Now, why discredit the story instead of treating it like the once-in-a-decade scoop that it really was? In fact, why publish the photos at all if you don't think they're legitimate? Well, that all might have had something to do with the guy who owned the Sunday Mirror.
Robert Maxwell controls a $5 billion media and communications empire based in London, but with tentacles around the world.
Robert Maxwell was famous for having significant editorial influence over his papers.
I certainly have a major say in the political line of the paper. I certainly have a major say on the editorials.
It's fucking crazy.
Yeah, bro. And he financed Israeli spyware.
This is a very important article from the 1990s, and it describes basically a piece of software that Robert Maxwell was integral in both financing and selling to the Department of Justice. And it was Israeli spyware that was installed on vast numbers of US government computers that was used specifically to spy on the United States by Mossad in the US and the Israeli intelligence community. Well, this was in the early 90s. This was whenever it was exposed, but in the 1980s, this is something that Maxwell was directly
Has there been punitive measures taken for this act?
As usual, whenever it comes to Israeli operations on US soil, we're all like, hey, you should cut it out, and then we don't really do anything about it.
So it must be commonly known that he was an Israeli spy.
It wasn't just Israel, bro. He was a triple agent.
Maxwell was also feathering his own nest, so you had someone who was doing Israel's bidding, and also doing his own. And Israel was willing to sort of look the other way. I mean, why not? I mean, because of what he gave them. I mean, he got access to everybody within the Soviet Union. Using Americans like the late sort of senator from Texas, John Goodwin Tower, he got access to Los Alamos and was able to sell Los Alamos, Sandia Laboratories, re-engineered software that helped Israel build its, steal America's secrets and build its nuclear weapons.
So let me start by this, because not everyone is saying exactly what you're saying. You're saying very definitively that he was a spy for Mossad. So how do you definitively know that?
Well, first of all, we knew his handler. His handler was one of the sources for our book, and that was Rafi Eitan. And Rafi Eitan was one of the most famous of all Mossad agents. He was the man who tracked down the people that sort of Moscow, that Israel was looking for. He was the one who ran Maxwell when Maxwell was stealing America's nuclear secrets from Los Alamos.
This guy was like a supervillain.
I told you, bro. He told Epstein everything.
Is there any doubt in your mind that he was an intelligence asset, Robert Maxwell?
I just started looking into this a couple days ago because it's all her fault. I mean, I literally just started looking a couple days ago.
I'm not the first, though, with Robert Maxwell. Seymour Hersh published a book called The Samson Option, Why Robert Maxwell Was Still Alive, alleging a relationship with Israeli intelligence. And in Britain, the libel laws are very strong. So Robert Maxwell sued over that intelligence claim, and he did not win.
Did not win. And by the way,
So Seymour Hersh was right. So we'll just leave that there. As far as I'm concerned, it's extensively documented the affiliation. He was also closely associated with figures in Soviet and Eastern European intelligence to a significant degree, an alleged relationship with British intelligence. I mean, it seems like he could have been a double or triple agent, very involved with intelligence stuff. And that's why it's complicated when we talk about intelligence affiliations. People are like, Robert Maxwell was just Mossad. Well, it's more complicated than that. These people are interested in money and power for themselves a lot of times. Around the end of the 1980s or so, he went into business with Eastern Bloc mobsters in a big way. One of the top FBI special agents in New York, John Patrick O'Neill, went on record saying that Robert Maxwell, before he died, set into motion a global coalition of criminals, that he basically made a major successful effort to bring together organized crime factions from around the world into like a global, basically criminal conglomerate, at the same time that he has all these intelligence affiliations.
Still don't get why he'd set his daughter up with Epstein.
It was a global network of bro. Maxwell was a nonce.
She was very beautiful when she was young, and she was clever. And it's always said that she was his favourite child.
Ghislaine used to flit around the building. I never forget, she would sit on the corner of my desk. She had beautiful long legs. She was very glamorous. And I remember one day, Maxwell wanted someone to work on the annual report. And I was told to sit in his office in a cupboard. And it was a cupboard. The doors opened, but had a chair and a computer. And I just sat there. He was at his desk and my back was to him the whole time. So obviously I heard everything. All the phone calls. He had many phone calls, of course. And he never ever put the phone to his ear. He's always on loudspeaker because he just couldn't be bothered to hold the phone to his ear. So you heard everything.
Okay, well, I'm in the study at the Whammed upstairs. I'll be in touch with you.
When I was just there, he just forgot I was there. Reception rang through and said, "It's Ghislaine, Mr. Maxwell." And he says, "Put her on." So the next thing I hear is, meow. And he went, meow, meow. And she went, meow. And he was going, meow, meow.
That's a bit weird, but don't make him a nonce.
Trust me, bro. He was Epstein's mentor.
He names his yacht, the $50 million yacht he buys, Lady Ghislaine.
After his favorite child.
After his favorite child.
But it's a little weird, the relationship between Robert Maxwell and Ghislaine.
Right.
For example, Ghislaine commissions pictures for the Lady Ghislaine, and some of them are a bit racy.
What does that mean?
I don't know. I mean, father-daughter relationship. Do you really want like a picture of your daughter with the skirt all the way up here being like, It's weird. I'm not saying I know anything that happened between them, but I think there was a lot of psychological manipulation. And, it seems like Robert Maxwell, at least in my opinion, was kind of narcissistic. A lot of narcissistic parents see no boundaries between them and their children. They see their children as extensions of them. He believed that Ghislaine was the most attractive and the most like him. Right? So, a lack of boundaries can mean a lot of things in that particular context, right? It seems like he was interested in using her for his benefit in a PR sort of way. For example, would publish stories in his own papers of alleged affairs of his daughter with elite people, aristocrats in Britain and stuff like that. Even though, the British elites that he would name were, denied any sort of a romantic relationship, Robert Maxwell obviously wanted that out there. And this is the same guy who with Ghislaine's, boyfriends when she was in high school, didn't want them near the house, didn't want her to date, was very controlling of her romantic life, but at the same time would publish, basically gossip and smutty gossip in his newspapers about her.
Okay, yeah, that's creepy as fuck.
Told you, bro. He was a scumbag.
Robert Maxwell was I don't know how else to describe it, but I found him to be a disgusting person. Like, he would pee off the side of his helicopter landing pad onto people below him. He would wipe his bum with the common towel in the bathroom. He would throw food at people. He would degrade them. He had very little respect. But there were a few people that he loved, and it was Ghislaine Maxwell. So he would bring her to events and have her on his arm, much like the person your wife, you know what I mean? She would substitute for his wife, Betty. And so he was proud of her beauty and her Rolodex and all of her friends. There was also a part of him that was quite cruel to her. And actually, Jeffrey was very cruel to her too. And he would degrade her. I learned this from her friends. Part of the power of the Maxwell series is I kind of got into the psychology of Ghislaine too through her friends. And they said that, Jeffrey would yell at her and she would cry. And actually the houseman said the same thing too. And she didn't like going out and looking for girls. She loved him and she wanted him to love her. But I think she had that similar relationship with her father where she desired the love of her father and never really got it.
Boo fucking who? Let her rot in jail.
They should have locked her up years ago, bro.
In 2005, teenage girls in Florida began reporting to police that they were being hired by Ghislaine Maxwell under the pretense that they would come to Epstein's Palm Beach house to give him massages. But then they were assaulted. They said they were paid afterwards and told that they could make more money by sending more girls to Epstein. Then in 2006, Epstein was arrested.
Police allege he paid underage girls for and found hidden cameras in his home and photographic evidence of his crimes. A plea deal allegedly shut down a broader FBI investigation, with Epstein pleading guilty to charges of procuring girls under 18 for prostitution.
The plea deal has been referred to by advocates for the victims and the victims themselves as being a sweetheart deal or the deal of the century. So how was Epstein able to get a deal so light it was described as poor judgment on the part of the prosecutor?
And the answer came back, no. And, I was told Epstein belonged to intelligence and they moved on.
Epstein belonged to intelligence.
We're never seeing the real files.
Nah, bro. He didn't even go to jail. They let him out 6 days a week.
What the fuck?
This conviction was the result of a deal struck with prosecutors that was presented to Epstein to sign on the 24th of September 2007, following 2 years of investigation. It allowed Epstein to plead guilty to those 2 crimes instead of facing trial for a multitude of accusations. Epstein would need to register as a sex offender and serve 18 months in county jail. That being said...
And is it 7 days a week that you're out on work release? No, sir. How many days a week are you out on work release? 6. And of those 6 days, how many hours per day are you out on work release? 12.
So he was basically only in jail to sleep. This deal Epstein signed to kind of go to jail for 18 months was later described in a Department of Justice investigation as an example of poor judgment by the prosecutor who organised it, US Attorney Alex Acosta.
What a fucking joke.
I told you, bro. He even got to pick his own charge.
Question. Which one do you prefer? Lewd and lascivious conduct or procuring for prostitution? I suppose lewd and lascivious conduct. I would prefer lewd and lascivious conduct with a prostitute if possible. That exchange between Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell on May 23, 2008 is part of some 18,000 emails from Epstein's personal Yahoo account obtained by Bloomberg News. The emails, which suggest the inbox was most active between 2005 and 2008, include messages spanning 2002 to 2022. Epstein died in 2019, and emails received after that are largely spam or marketing offers. Overall, the emails offer a raw look into the disgraced financier and defender's world. While this inbox wasn't the only one he used, the newly uncovered emails do suggest how central Maxwell was to his life. Something that contradicts her telling of events. She's characterized herself as a former girlfriend and property manager for Epstein, not someone with eyes into his vast influence machine or trafficking operation. Maxwell was central to curating Epstein's inner circle, according to these emails. Notably, Maxwell also oversaw some of Epstein's gift giving. In the emails, we discovered a spreadsheet of gifts and payments, some lavish, like $60,000 diamond ear clips and a necklace, a $47,000 Steinway piano, and a $71,000 car, as he curried favor with the elite and powerful. The ledger doesn't make clear whether the gifts were accepted by their intended recipients. And all this was happening at a time when Maxwell has said she wasn't in regular contact with Epstein. These emails cut through the image of a scapegoat and simple house manager that Maxwell has worked tirelessly to present. And while they're not the definitive record of Epstein's story, they open a rare window into his life and social circle, a network Maxwell not only moved within, but helped build and defend.
Clearly more people knew what was going on.
Yeah, bro. All the banks were in on it.
Obviously, these banks were integral to what Jeffrey Epstein was doing, and they knew, according to these lawsuits, these banks, JP Morgan, Deutsche Bank, they knew exactly what Jeffrey Epstein was up to. Jamie Dimon with JP Morgan. JP Morgan just gave Epstein's victims $290 million. Yeah. And there was a New York Times article where Jamie Dimon was talking, and you could tell that the guy was lying. I mean, it didn't take rocket science. And then all of a sudden, there's this $290 million settlement. So obviously, these banks were integral to what Jeffrey Epstein was doing. And they knew, according to these lawsuits, these banks, JP Morgan, Deutsche Bank, they knew exactly what Jeffrey Epstein was up to. How do you think they were involved? I think that they were probably involved in more young. I mean, that's my surmise on that. And according to internal documents that were that the lawyers for the Epstein victims were able to acquire, JP Morgan definitely knew what Jeffrey Epstein was up to. Now, how would JP Morgan know that unless some of those executives were taking part in it?
We should fucking string them all up.
He was blackmailing them, bro. That's how he got Les Wexner.
Who is Wexner and what is his relationship to Epstein? And before you begin, because I want people to keep this in mind as they're listening, as far as I know, and I think this is correct, Wexner, who I believe is still alive, has never been interviewed by the Department of Justice. So just want to throw that out there.
Yeah, that's correct as far as I know. So Les Wexner, he owns limited brands, L brands. So Victoria's Secret he owns, Abercrombie & Fitch, a lot of the places that you see when you go into the mall. I don't think it's the case anymore, but for a long time he was the largest clothing manufacturer and distributor in the United States. Billionaire, incredibly wealthy guy. As you said, owns the largest and most expensive house in the state of Ohio, where he lives in Columbus. And the second largest and most expensive house in the state of Ohio was owned by Jeffrey Epstein and was directly behind Wexner's house.
What?
Yeah. So Wexner, he was introduced to Wexner through this network of people, and very, very quickly becomes, the nature of their relationship is still kind of a mystery because it's so hard to explain in any terms that you can really draw a plausible story for. Within a very short period of time, he known this Epstein guy like 2 years, right? And not because he had worked at his company for those 2 years and was so squared away, anything like that. We don't exactly know what he was doing during those 2 years, but he knew him 2 years when he signed full power of attorney over his entire estate, Les Wexner, talking billions of dollars, the largest clothing manufacturing corporation in the country, or a company in the country, to the point where this was not a limited power of attorney. Jeffrey Epstein could sign...
Wait, he gives Jeffrey Epstein power of attorney over everything?
Jeffrey Epstein could take out loans in his name. He could sign his tax returns. He had full power of attorney over the Wexner estate.
You must have got video of him doing some pretty fucked up shit.
Yeah, bro. Maxwell and Epstein weren't the first to do it, and they won't be the last.
This type of thing has been done before. There's nothing new about this. Getting influential people in compromising situations and filming them. I could give you another historical example of that. In late 1920, actually early 1930s, just pre-Nazi Berlin, there was a very prominent sort of would-be psychic and occultist by the name of Erich Jan Hannesson. He had a private yacht, I think it was called the Seven Sins, and he hosted parties. He also had a whole club called the Palace of the Occult, which hosted parties where things went on, and there were cameras everywhere. He filmed important people, guys like the brown shirt chief of Berlin in various states of undress and Congress. And he did that for the purposes of blackmail. So in Epstein's case, he is a procurer of young girls to wealthy men, largely. And many of those events were recorded. Now, even if it wasn't his intention to use them for blackmail, think of what someone else could do, because people know about this.
It's a fucking dark world, mate.
Yeah, bro. It's still going on today.
Now, you might be wondering who some of the shadowy figures leaving Epstein's house masked up are. Well, that's none other than former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak. What was he doing there?
We have recent email leaks from Ehud Barak that is his entire email inbox from almost a year's worth of time, and they communicated almost every day, often multiple times a day, direct contact about basically everything that they were doing. But he also visited him frequently, and there's a whole year of time where Ehud Barak's known visits to Epstein were monthly on a schedule. Most people were visiting Epstein in what seemed like a leisure sense, but Ehud Barak was visiting him on a regular schedule. And he was also sneaking in and out of Epstein's mansion in disguise. Jeffrey Epstein referred not just Ehud Barak, but also Benjamin Netanyahu to JP Morgan. That's the current Prime Minister of Israel. Why is a random loan referring the current Prime Minister of Israel to JP Morgan?
Allegedly.
Oh, that's very well proved.
I'm scared of getting sued. Yeah.
I'm not surprised he's scared of getting sued. You know what happens when you start speaking out against Israel?
Yeah, bro. You get shot in the neck. But we'll have to save that for next time.
Hold up, Ted, we've got to do the giveaway.
Leave a comment for a chance to win in our next episode. Let's do this, bro.
Bang!
Bang!
Pick something from our website and we'll send it straight out.
That's terrortedstowers.com. Shout out everyone buying the merch, bro.
We're skating on thin ice with this episode, so if we're not back with another one, you know why.
Fuck that, bro. They can't stop us. Terror Ted's Towers forever, bitch.
And as always, thanks for watching. Remember to like, comment and subscribe. And we'll see you in the next one.